The community center's ancient air conditioning struggled against the August heat and the unprecedented crowd. Michael spotted familiar faces from the Oakwood Tavern, the bird bath woman, the gnome enthusiast, all wearing knowing smiles. News had spread through an underground network of Patricia's victims, drawing spectators eager for potential schadenfreude. Patricia's bored allies, Gerald from the golf course and Meredith, who owned the local boutique, huddled in whispered conversation, occasionally glancing nervously at Michael's rolling suitcase. Point of order, Gerald interrupted as Michael began his presentation. This appeal focuses on fence colors, not bins. It's irrelevant to the violation at hand. Michael smiled. With respect, Mr. Winters, my appeal demonstrates that the rule being enforced against me requires selective interpretation of our bylaws, interpretation that isn't being applied consistently. Board member Helen Jenkins, the retired school principal who'd previously voted with Patricia on everything, adjusted her glasses. I'd like to hear Mr. Bennett out. Michael clicked to a new slide showing a split screen, Patricia's weathered oak fence beside the original developer's color samples. As you can see, the Winters fence, installed last October, is not colonial gray, rustic brown, or forest green. By President Winters' own standard, their fence is in violation. Patricia's perfectly manicured nails drummed against the table. This is ridiculous. Colors fade, styles change. Precisely my point. Michael replied smoothly, which is why the selective enforcement against my bin is problematic. If we acknowledge that standards evolve, then my bin should be acceptable. If we strictly enforce original standards, then 72% of our fences are non-compliant. The elderly board treasurer, Mr. Abernathy, chuckled. He's got you there, Patricia. Patricia's face tightened. We have discretion to interpret. Only through proper procedures, Michael interrupted, flipping to the 2007 meeting minutes. This document proves the board acknowledged the color discrepancy 15 years ago, but failed to properly amend the bylaws with the required supermajority vote. Instead, they adopted an unofficial case-by-case approach that violates our own governance requirements. The room fell silent as board members studied the evidence. Michael maintained eye contact with Patricia, whose complexion had shifted from flushed to pallid. This is just. Patricia struggled to find words. Thorough research, Michael suggested. I'm a debugger by profession, Mrs. Winters. I find system inconsistencies and correct them. Mrs. Gonzalez stood up from the audience. I've lived here 22 years. Our colors were never a problem until Patricia started targeting people she doesn't like. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. If I may, Michael continued, clicking to his proposal slide, I suggest two equitable solutions. Either exempt all exterior fixtures from color matching requirements, allowing my bin to remain as is, or update our approved color palette through proper channels to include all current variations, including blue. Gerald leaned toward Patricia. We should consider. Absolutely not. Patricia snapped, composure cracking. Next you'll want purple fences and polka-dotted mailboxes. The outburst hung in the air. Michael remained calm. The bylaws exist to maintain community standards, not personal preferences. If the majority of homeowners prefer flexibility over rigidity, shouldn't our rules reflect that? Helen Jenkins removed her glasses thoughtfully. I move we suspend enforcement of the bin color restriction, pending formation of a color compliance committee to review our standards. Second, said Mr. Abernathy immediately. Patricia's gavel trembled slightly as she called the vote, unable to meet Michael's eyes as the motion passed 5-2. As Patricia tucked her camera into her handbag, Michael noticed a small notebook in her other hand, its pages filled with what appeared to be a handwritten list of addresses and violations. I've lived here for 3 years with the same bin, Michael said, gesturing toward the offending royal blue container. Nobody's ever mentioned it before. Patricia's lips twitched into what might have been a smile on anyone else. Previous leadership was permissive. I ran on a platform of standards, Mr. Bennett. Look around you. This is a premium neighborhood. She waved her hand dismissively at his modest home. Or at least it was. before certain elements began to slip. Michael felt his hackles rise at her tone, but maintained his composure. He'd dealt with difficult project managers before. The city provides these bins. Everyone has them. Others keep them properly concealed, Patricia countered, making another note in her book. Your corner lot presents unique visibility concerns. As if on cue, a sleek black Tesla pulled into Patricia's driveway across the street. A tall man in golf attire emerged, glancing over with what looked like sympathy. My husband, Gerald, Patricia said without looking back, chairman of the architectural review board at the country club. He understands the importance of aesthetic harmony. Michael fought the urge to roll his eyes. He'd chosen this neighborhood specifically because it seemed unpretentious compared to the gated communities nearby. The HOA fees had seemed reasonable for the well-maintained common areas and annual block party. The rule book he'd signed at closing had gone directly into a drawer. I'll email you the complete HOA guidelines, Patricia continued, her tone making it clear this was not a friendly gesture. I suggest you familiarize yourself with them immediately. The previous board's laxity has led to numerous violations throughout Oakwood Heights. I intend to correct each one. As she turned to leave, Michael noticed Mrs. Gonzalez across the street hurriedly taking her wind chimes down. The elderly woman caught his eye and shook her head in warning. Oh, and Mr. Bennett? Patricia called over her shoulder. I'd recommend addressing that bin situation promptly. First notices are warnings. Second notices come with fines. After she left, Michael retreated inside his home. The morning's peace thoroughly shattered. His phone pinged with a notification, an email from p.winters@oakwoodlightshow.org with a 78-page PDF attachment titled OAKUOD Haiti's Community UIDEINES and Restarted Islands UPDATED. With a sigh, he opened the document, scrolling through sections on approved mailbox designs, permissible garden gnome heights, and a 3-page addendum about holiday decoration timeframes. Section 12 covered waste management aesthetics, with subsection 347B specifically addressing color compliance. All visible waste receptacles must conform to the neighborhood's earth tone palette and slash or match existing approved structural elements. Michael glanced out his window at the blue recycling bin, a bin identical to every other one in the neighborhood, and then at Patricia's house with its immaculate lawn and newly stained fence. Something told him this was just the beginning of a very complicated relationship. That evening, his neighbor Tom stopped by while walking his dog. I see you've met the Queen of Beige, Tom said with a grimace. Word is she drove 3 families out of her last neighborhood. One guy actually sold at a loss just to escape. Over a recycling bin? Michael asked incredulously. Tom's laugh was hollow. Oh man, the bin is just her opening move. Trust me, this is how she establishes dominance. Next will come your grass height, then your mailbox, then probably those hydrangeas. He pointed to Michael's front garden. They're not on the approved plant list. There's an approved plant list, Michael groaned. Page 43, Tom confirmed. Welcome to the real Oakwood Heights, my friend. We've been waiting for someone to stand up to her. Maybe you'll be the one. After the humiliating HOA meeting, Michael retreated to the Oakwood Tavern, a local watering hole just outside the subdivision's boundaries. The worn wooden bar and absence of beige made it a natural refuge for HOA dissidents. You got the bin treatment, huh? The bartender, Dave, slid a craft beer toward Michael. On the house. Consider it the Patricia special. Michael looked up, surprised. Is it that obvious? That 1,000-yard stare? Classic Patricia victim. Dave leaned in conspiratorially. Half my evening regulars are Oakwood residents hiding from that woman. The other guy who got the bin citation moved out last month. A woman 2 stools down snorted into her wine. I got cited for my birdbath being 2 inches above regulation height. Had to concrete the damn thing lower into my garden. Garden gnomes, contributed a man in a golf shirt. Apparently mine were excessively whimsical. Michael's phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line made his stomach sink. Violate 8 re 9 dear. 7 days remaining HOA COMPIANC. The email included new photos of his bin taken that very morning, from multiple angles, with a measuring tape visible to document its distance from the curb. The final line read, "Failure to comply will result in an initial fine of $50, with an additional $10 daily surcharge until resolution." "She's relentless," Michael muttered, showing the email to Dave. "Classic escalation pattern." Dave nodded. First the warning, then the public shaming, now the countdown. Next comes the daily documentation to build her case. For a recycling bin. This is insane. Dave wiped the bar thoughtfully. It's not about the bin. It's about establishing control. My theory. She uses these petty violations to identify who'll fight back and who'll cave. The fighters get targeted for elimination. The woman with the bird bath nodded grimly. My next-door neighbor challenged her on Christmas lights last year. Within a month, she'd received citations for 11 separate violations, sold in March. As if to confirm this theory, Michael's phone dinged again. A new email contained a notice about his non-conforming hydrangeas and excessive porch furniture, a single Adirondack chair. "And so it begins," the gnome owner said, raising his glass in mock toast. Michael walked home through the gathering twilight, struck by how sterile Oakwood Heights suddenly appeared. Cookie-cutter houses with identical landscapes, devoid of personality. Patricia's vision realized. Except, as he rounded the corner to his street, Michael noticed something. A flash of blue caught his eye from Mrs. Gonzalez's backyard, a blue gazing bowl partially hidden behind her garden shed. Another blue birdhouse hung from the Thompson's oak tree. A child's blue bicycle leaned against the Patel's garage. Little acts of rebellion, carefully concealed but present nonetheless. When Michael reached his driveway, Tom was outside watering plants. "What happens if I just ignore her?" Michael asked. Tom shook his head. "Fines accumulate until they put a lien on your property. Patricia's predecessor was reasonable, would work with people, but she's different. Rumor has it she forced an elderly couple into foreclosure at her last community. That can't be legal. HOAs have surprising power. The courts generally uphold their right to enforce the contract you signed." Tom lowered his voice. "But here's what they don't want you to know. The HOA itself has to follow its own rules. Every single one. No exceptions." Michael's programmer brain, accustomed to finding exploitable logic in complex systems, suddenly clicked into high gear. "Are you saying?" Tom's smile was slow and conspiratorial. "I'm saying that sometimes the only way to beat a system is from the inside. You just need to find the right loophole." The Color Compliance Committee's first meeting, scheduled for the HOA office, found its door mysteriously locked despite Michael's confirmed reservation. Without missing a beat, he redirected everyone to his backyard. "Tacos will be served in 15 minutes, he announced, ignoring Patricia's tight-lipped glare from her upstairs window across the street. The informal setting immediately changed the dynamic. Committee members relaxed in Adirondack chairs, non-compliant blue ones Michael had quickly purchased, sharing neighborhood stories over cold drinks. "Remember when houses here had personality?" Mrs. Gonzalez mused, scrolling through old photos on her iPad. The Johnsons' purple door, the Millers' mosaic mailbox. Before the Beige Brigade took over, Tom added, accepting a margarita. Michael guided the meeting efficiently, collecting every color grievance from the past decade. Mrs. Gonzalez's spreadsheet provided dates, addresses, and outcomes of Patricia's enforcement crusade. The pattern was undeniable. Longtime residents and young families received violations. Country club members and Patricia's social circle received exemptions. "We need to either enforce everything equally or admit our rules need updating," Michael concluded. "Personally, I vote for more color, not less." By meeting's end, they'd drafted a comprehensive survey that would let every homeowner voice their color preferences. Patricia's attempts to delay its distribution backfired when Michael created a digital version that circulated through the neighborhood faster than her objections. The results were overwhelming. 78% wanted expanded color options, with flexibility within reason as the clear mandate. The written comments reveal the community tired of micromanagement. I bought a home, not a prison cell. My kid cried when we had to paint over her rainbow mailbox. The birds don't care if my bath matches my shutters. Frank Anderson from the local hardware store attended the committee's final presentation, sensing opportunity. Whatever you decide, he offered, I'd be happy to provide discount coupons for the neighborhood. When the final vote confirmed the expanded palette, including the newly christened Oakwood Blue, McCall noticed something extraordinary. Rather than mere acceptance, there was genuine enthusiasm. People lingered after the meeting, discussing color possibilities with excitement that had been missing from Oakwood Heights for years. The blue revolution began quietly. The Patos painted their mailbox post. The Johnsons refreshed their shutters. Tom upgraded his entire fence over a weekend. The bright blue a beacon of change. Frank's new palette celebration discount triggered a painting frenzy. Weekends found neighbors helping neighbors, sharing brushes and burgers. Children added handprints to fence posts. One elderly couple had tears in their eyes as they restored the blue garden gnomes they'd hidden in their garage for years. The true indication of victory came when the prestigious Homes of Distinction blog featured Oakwood Heights' harmonious but individualistic aesthetic, a masterclass in balancing community standards with personal expression. The article raved, prominently featuring photos of the blue-accented streets. Patricia's absence from community events became conspicuous. Gerald attended alone, increasingly participating in fence painting weekends with surprising enthusiasm. Between us, he confided to Michael one afternoon, I've always preferred blue. Reminds me of sailing as a kid. The for sale sign appeared in front of the Winters home on a Tuesday morning. By evening, Patricia's carefully curated beige aesthetic was already being dismantled by the real estate stager, who added, of all things, bright blue throw pillows to modernize the space. Michael watched from his porch, sipping coffee from his blue mug, his once offensive recycling bin standing proudly by his now matching fence. Cheers, he toasted silently, as Mrs. Gonzalez walked by with her newly uncovered wind chimes singing in the breeze. The next morning, Michael called in sick to work. His living room transformed into a war room as he spread documents across every surface. His cat, Darwin, watched with interest from atop a stack of property records. The trick to debugging, Michael explained to Darwin as he pinned photos of neighborhood fences to a corkboard, is finding the exact point where the system breaks. Michael's phone rang. His friend Raj, a real estate attorney. I owe you for fixing my website, Raj said after pleasantries. I pulled those HOA records you asked about. Most interesting thing. Your Oakwood Heights bylaws require a supermajority vote, 75%, to change any original covenant, including the color restrictions. Michael's pulse quickened. So if the original colors were never properly amended, then technically, every fence that doesn't match the original palette is in violation, Raj confirmed, including your HOA president's precious weathered oak. But here's the gold mine. I checked the county records. Patricia and Gerald Winter's fence permit explicitly cited a non-compliant color. They knew exactly what they were doing. Michael stared at his timeline of neighborhood development. She's violating the very rules she's using against everyone else. Classic rules for thee but not for me situation, Raj agreed. Question is, what will you do with this information? That afternoon, Michael drove to the county records office. He charmed a clerk named Beverly with genuine interest in her 30 years of service, which yielded access to original photographs of Oakwood Heights from its development phase. The models had such lovely colonial gray fences, Beverly reminisced, showing him marketing materials from 1987. Very patriotic with the forest green option too. Michael requested color copies of everything, paying the $47 fee without hesitation. As Beverly processed his request, he asked casually, how common is it for HOAs to lose track of their original covenants? Beverly's laugh was knowing. Oh honey, happens all the time. HOA boards change, memories fade, and suddenly everyone's interpreting rules based on current preferences, rather than actual documents. On his way home, Michael stopped at the community college where Tom's wife taught architectural design. She granted him 20 minutes with their professional color matching system. "This is definitely not on the original palette," she confirmed, comparing his sample of Patricia's fence to the historical standards. "Not even close. Weathered oak is a modern Sherwin-Williams color that didn't exist in 1987. Back home, Michael's dining table disappeared under a sprawling diagram connecting documents, photos, and regulations with red yarn, a physical manifestation of the code logic he was untangling. The HOA portal announced his bin fine had officially begun accruing, $50 plus $10 per day. The total now stood at $80. "Worth every penny," Michael muttered, adding Patricia's latest violation notice to his evidence wall. Near midnight, he found the final puzzle piece. Minutes from a 2007 HOA meeting where the board acknowledged the color palette issue, but tabled formal revision as too cumbersome, instead adopting an unofficial case-by-case approval approach that violated their own procedures. Michael stood back, surveying his work. Every non-compliant fence in the neighborhood was mapped, photographed, and color-matched against approved standards. The most flagrant violator, 1242 Oakwood Circle, Patricia's home address. "Checkmate, Karen," Michael whispered, reaching for his keyboard. He began composing a formal letter to the HOA board that would either end this nonsense or escalate it into all-out bureaucratic warfare. Either way, his blue bin wasn't going anywhere. Darwin knocked the stack of papers off the table as if in approval.